Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris Souter, Slunger Cat Outdoors, back with you again on this beautiful Tuesday evening to do another Tackle Talk Tuesday. I want to thank everybody for joining in this afternoon. As always, if this is your first time joining the channel, thank you guys for becoming a subscriber, visiting, trying to learn information, and I want to thank you guys for just taking the time out to watch us. Um, Also, we try to do other videos every week. Um, I was doing a good job at putting out new videos every week, but unfortunately, the weather has not cooperated very well the last couple weekends. It's been super windy and bad weather where I was at, and it just didn't make good videos. So we have not been able to do the video viewer Fridays like I normally would do, and I do apologize for that. But hopefully, with warmer weather coming, and spring here, and Flathead's getting ready to turn on, we will be able to put out some more good fishing videos. I cannot wait to get out and do some good fishing. But as always, I want to thank you guys for being here tonight. I know it's getting warm, and I know a lot of you are very dedicated. If you're watching this and you're not out enjoying this beautiful sunshine behind me, it's a beautiful day out there. But the last couple weeks we have been doing how to prepare for a tournament, a new body of water, how to get started in tournaments. And I received a question from an individual that it actually goes on in this whole process. And I thought it was an actual good question to kind of continue this. But before we get started with tonight's show, for anybody that's interested in tonight's show, we're going to be talking about how water temperatures affect patterns or seasonal patterns for catfish, and we're going to break it down for for flatheads and blue cats. That's what he was talking about specifically in the question. So that's what we're going to be touching on tonight. And if somebody would like to go, would want me to go in deeper or maybe into channel cats, please let me know. But before we get started on that tonight, I want to remind everybody that in case you didn't catch the small live feed that we done just a few minutes ago on Facebook, that we are doing a meet and greet at South Point, Ohio, a small place called the Tackle Box. It's going to be this Saturday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. I'm going to be John Newell, J Newell Zero, regular dude fishing, both of his channels. He will be there along with me. He is actually getting ready to go south to get a load of fresh skipjack to bring back in case anybody that's coming would like to have some fresh skipjack. And I am also going to be doing a live demonstration seminar on how to throw a cast net to kind of teach you guys how in person, for how to throw a cast net. So again, that is South Point, Ohio, 11 to 3 this coming Saturday. Hope to see as many of you all there as we can possibly see there. So as always, make sure you're leaving your questions in the comments. This is where we get our information on what we're going to do. Is from the questions. So if there's no questions, I don't know what all you guys need to know. So as always, like our grade school teachers taught us, there's no stupid question, and the only stupid question is the one that's that is not asked. So please make sure you're asking questions. A lot of people, will hit me up in Messenger afterwards, and that is fine, absolutely fine. Leave it in the comments, hit me up in Messenger, something like that. So okay, so for anybody, I just seen somebody ask about the King of the James this weekend. For anybody that hasn't been keeping up with the King of the James results, there was a really good fish caught, some really good fish caught. I don't personally think that it was a good showing of what the James River is. It was a tough bite, tough conditions, windy, and it was just a tough bite. We ended up 13th place, not bad, but not really where we wanted to be. But very pleased with it, as tough as the bite was, and as hard as the fish were to find. So very pleased with that. For anybody that is also interested, go back and watch some of the live feeds. You guys ought to see how fast that the crew from King of the James was able to push, get them boats through. 124 boats is not a small amount by no means, and these guys were able to, get those boats through, get those fish out of the boats and into the water in such a minimal time. And I cannot thank them enough for making that a high priority on their list, and keeping those fish healthy. The big fish, it's a very stressful time of the year. These fish are getting ready to feed up and go on spawn here next couple months, and we want to take as good care of them as we possibly can, and they absolutely did. But to kind of jump right into tonight, I know there's probably some people that are very interested in this topic. It's a question that I get asked a lot, and an individual that watches the channel on a regular basis by the name of Charles Bradley, he brought up a very, very good question that I wanted to kind of continue how we have been going the last couple weeks. He says, I would like to learn more on flathead and blue cat patterns according to water temperatures. He says it would be a good starting point. And absolutely, Charles, this is, if you can understand, what a flathead or what a blue is, or anticipate what they're getting ready to do, you can be ahead of the ball game in being able to eliminate so much water before you ever get there. And that is part of that planning and having that plan of attack, like we had talked about last week and the last couple weeks. Being able to cut out 70% of the water and focus on 30% of the water is going to make a huge difference. And water temperature and weather conditions and all that seasonal make a huge difference and huge impact on what those fish are doing, seasonal patterns. So this is a good topic, I think, for tonight. And as busy as I've been the last couple weeks and last weekend, this is going to be a straight from the hip kind of deal. I have 0 notes to go off of. This is going to be raw, honest, opinionated information. Okay, this is not factual information. This is stuff that has worked for me in the past and that I've been able to be successful with. And we have to remember that no matter what, it is not a guarantee. It could be extremely hot, middle of the summer, and you'd think there's no way fish would be in 2 or 3 foot of water, and boom, you find them in 2 or 3 foot of water. So always with this, I want to make sure that you guys understand to always be willing to change. Never stick to one particular thing as always. If you're willing to change, you will find the fish, and nothing is guaranteed. With that being said, we're going to start this I'm going to start with flatheads, and we're going to break it down kind of spring, summer, fall, and then back into winter. Okay, and we're going to kind of touch on some key temperatures that I think make a huge difference, or whenever I, finally, start catching good solid fish, whenever, I feel that they go on spawn, and then when I feel they go back to their wintering holes. Okay, so to start with on flatheads, we're going to start, let's say we're just coming out of winter. The flatheads in my area and in most areas, they're still kind of sluggish. They're not really eating. You're gonna catch small fish, but that water temperature is finally starting to raise. It is slowly coming up, but with that brings longer days. Okay, and obviously longer days mean that the temperature is going to have more of a chance to warm up. So right now those fish are still kind of in their wintering pattern, in their wintering holes, just starting to kind of wake up. Okay, you can catch an occasional small flathead here and there. Now as that water temperature continues to rise, it's going to get into the 50s, and it's going to get close to that 55, 60 degree mark, and those fish are going to start to wake up. And I say wake up, but I'm using that as an expression of, they're going to start to kind of, feel good or feel warm, and they're going to move around a little bit, but they're not going to leave that area that they feel comfortable, in case it comes a big cold snap, and they can go right back to it. But things start to move around. Now as that temperature reaches up into that, just hits that 60-degree mark. This is kind of in the spring. This is to me, the best time to be on the water. Okay, these fish are now, it's springtime. We're talking May, April, May, depending on where you're at. These fish are really starting to move. They're really starting to feed, and this is the pattern that you need to be on. Now, when it comes to this, these fish are moving. They're moving, to an area. It's not specifically structure oriented, okay, but these temperatures make them want to come alive and feed and get ready for their next stage in life, which is spawn and pre-spawn. So they're feeding up heavily, and they're chasing a lot of baits, and good areas are pinch points and high percentage areas to be in areas that bait are going to come into, and those fish can come in and feed heavily on those, on that bait this time of year. Now, once again, we're talking about flatheads, right? This specific time. Yes, Seth, I do use cut bait in the colder temperatures. Let me go back right here. Tackling Cats asks, Chris, what about warming but falling water levels? Do you feel that they go to deep holes? So whenever it comes to warming temperatures but falling water levels, no, I don't think that they go to deep holes. Specifically, we're talking about flatheads. Their need is going to overwhelm their want in this time frame, and I feel that their need to get warm and get feeding is going to overwhelm that desire to want to go somewhere else. Okay, they need to be here. They may want to go there. So hopefully that answers your question. But yes, to answer the other question, I do use cut bait this time of year, but I will also integrate in live bait as that temperature starts to rise, and let them tell me when they're ready to really be active and chase that bait. When that's the case, you can't get better than live bait. So kind of get back on track. As that water temperature is going to raise up in the 60s, these fish, like I was saying, are going to feed heavily, and then once that water temperature, now we're getting into June, early part of June, that water temperature is getting into the 70s. Okay, it's getting they're in their pre-spawning areas. They're just about ready to spawn. They're still feeding, but now that water temperature hits that like 72-degree mark. It's usually, for me, it's usually about that second week of June. That's going to kind of depend north, south. You guys might, they might go and spawn earlier or later than we do. Okay, and this is, for me, my experience. These fish normally spawn. It's going to be like second to third week of June through July, and then you're gonna start catching them again at the end of summer, or not the end of summer, but like end of July, first of August. Water temperature summer degrees, and now these fish have spawned. Okay, and once again, we're specifically talking about flatheads right now. We'll jump into blue cats right after this. Also, for everybody watching, if you like the information that we're putting out, make sure that you're sharing it, commenting, hitting that thumbs up. Let me know that we're doing a good job at what the information we're sharing. Okay, get more people on here. The more people we can share this information with, the better. So now the fish have spawned out. They're tired. They're wore out. The water temperature's hot. They're going to kind of go to that cooler water, which is going to be a little bit deeper water. For me and flatheads, I prefer that 30 to 35 foot mark. 25 to 35, but I really prefer that 30 to 35 mark. And we're going to be, those fish are going to be concentrated on structure. They're going to be extremely structure oriented fish. They're going to be very predictable. And this is going to be through that same water temperature that, all carries it all through the summer. Okay. Now, depending on where you're at, how hot that water gets, if it's a river, if it's a lake, that kind of stuff is going to make a huge difference on what those fish need to do, depending on oxygen levels. Obviously, if there's no oxygen in that 30-foot mark, those fish can't be there, so they may have to be shallow, depending on that oxygen level, which is a huge thing when it comes to temperature, and the thermocline, and where that oxygen level is going to be. Okay, so that is something that to keep in mind during this hot time, the summertime. When that water temperature reaches 80 degrees, or better, will depend on oxygen levels, and that will depend on where those fish need to be as to survive. Okay, now we're going into the fall. Okay, that water temperature is going to finally start decreasing down. These fish have rested up from the summer, from spawn. They've been in that what was going to be their home for the summer, whether it be a wood pile, rock pile, an old barge, whatever it might be, down there on that bottom of the water. Now it's time for them to kind of go reverse pattern to what we done in the summer. So we're getting into that 70-degree mark. Those fish, and the days are kind of getting shorter. Those fish know that, hey, something's about to happen, something's about to change. I need to start feeding up. It's time to start going back towards winter. We need to think about feeding. We need to think about survival, making it through the winter. So they're going to start feeding a little bit heavier, and as that water temperature continues to change, they're going to continue to feed. They're going to stay in that area, but as that water temperature drops back down to that 60-degree mark, and that could be normally where I'm at, that's going to be like a late September, October, mid-October time, depending on the Indian summer that you have. Will depend on how hot that water will stay and how long it will stay. Sometimes it cools off quick, and those fish go into that a lot sooner than what you would think, and sometimes it kind of drags out into November, or even in the case of a few years ago, it drug out into December. We was able to catch good flatheads all the way into December. So that water temperature plays a big role on how long they will stay active. So now, we're getting into that 60-degree mark. Those fish are going to be moving. They're going to be back on the move. They're not going to be structure oriented. They will be structure oriented, but they will be moving from place to place to place. Okay, and they're going to be feeding heavier. This is like the May, but not quite as good as May, but can be as good as May. Okay, now once that water temperature drops back down, 50 degrees, and it stays down, and it's not really coming back up or warming back up. Normally those fish are in their wintering holes, which depending on where you can be deeper or it can be shallow. It just depends on what they need. They're going to group up, kind of lay together and stay warm and stay for the year or for the winter in those little areas. Now they might roam out onto a flat if it gets warm and feed a little bit, but now we're back into the winter. Okay, so hopefully that answered the flathead part of that question for you, Charles, and anybody else. Hopefully that helped you understand a little bit more on how to break things down and give you guys an idea of where and when and why those fish are or should be there. But listen and remember that it's not always a guarantee. This weekend, I would have never dreamed in 1,000 years that I would be able to say that I caught catfish in less than a foot of water. But I literally was able to catch good solid catfish, blue cats, in a foot or less of water. That to me that's new. I fish shallow, but not a foot or less of water. So that's amazing to me. And that's where we're going to go with now is the blue cats. Okay, blue cats. Uh, I like catching blue cats. I much rather catch a flathead. It's really, I really love flatheads, but blue cats, we're going to do the same thing. They are more active all year long, uh, and I wouldn't say harder to pattern than a flathead, but they are harder for me to pattern than a flathead, depending on water temperature, because of they move so much and they can be in so many different places, not just today, but from tonight to tomorrow morning. They can be in completely different area. They swim, there is uh, studies out there that show actual fact information of how many miles these fish can swim. And I I want to say the farthest I've heard is like 400 and some miles that one blue catfish had swam that they know of in a in like a year's time. And if there's anybody in here that Jason, I think you might have the answer to that, because it actually come down into the Mississippi River. So I'm wanting to think it was like 400 and some miles that fish swam from the Tennessee River down into the Ohio River and then back and then out into the Mississippi River. So, so when it comes to blue cats, wintertime blue cats, I will, water. We're talking water temperature all the way down to it freezes. Okay, I like to fish current seams, water breaks. We're talking about, you know, water temperature from, let's say, 50 degrees. Well, I'm gonna say 45 degrees to 35 degrees, somewhere in there. I'm gonna fish anchored up, and I'm gonna be fishing current breaks, areas where they can get in the current a little bit, but they can kind of stay out of the main current if they need to be. Um, you know, they're gonna kind of stack up on those water or on those breaks a little bit, as and if you get a warm day with a blue cat, those fish can go up on a flat and and absolutely get into that shallow water and warm up and then move back out. They will be active 365 days a year, in my opinion, and you can catch them 365 days a year if you can find them. Normally, with a blue cat, if you see him, you can, he's there. Now you may not always catch him, but you can see those fish where they need to be and where they're at. That's going to help you out a lot as well. Memphis to Kansas City. I'm guessing, Jason Huggins, that is how far that fish swam. I don't know how many miles that is, but it sounds like a bunch to me. But getting back to it now, the water temperature is warming up, and just like the flatheads, as that water temperature warms up, blue cats will swim upriver. They move a lot, as the studies have showed. They move a tremendous amount, and they go with the bait. Yes, Seth asked. Let me see here. Seth, he asked, blues even are migratory in reservoirs. Do you agree? Yes. Even in like Willer, I've seen it firsthand that there's a mass majority of those fish that will move up the river and out of the river depending on the time of year. Now I'm not going to say that all the fish do, because I don't believe that, but I do think that no matter where you're at, what body of water you're on, depending on the water temperature, there's going to be a mass pod of fish that move, whether it be up to the creek that's going to be washing all that warmer water into that reservoir, or whether it's going to be upriver to that warmer water that's coming downriver. Okay, so I do believe that 100% that they are migratory and they move a tremendous amount. I've caught tagged fish myself that have whenever I got the information back from them, found out that they have swam through one or two pools on the high river throughout the course of a year, and that's an absolute amazing amount to me. So anyway, getting back on track, as that water temperature warms up to that, it's going to be a little less for blue cats than it is flatheads. 60 degrees was kind of like a target area for flatheads. For me, that 50-degree mark, triggers me to think that those blue cats are really starting to be active and move, and that's whenever, you know, to me, they kind of become a little bit harder to catch. Whenever they're predictable in the wintertime, you can find them piled up, and they're kind of more predictable than than this time of year. Okay, so they're on the move, and they're headed towards the bait, maybe towards a dam. Um, this time of year, depending. Yes, Jason brings up a good point. Thanks, Jason, for bringing that up. Current as well as bait is going to affect those. So, with that current that comes, it triggers them that, hey, we need to head upriver to spawn and feed, and as long along as well as that water temperature. Okay, so now as they go up and they feed, they're going to do the same thing, and it's as with a flathead, it's just a little bit earlier. So they go up, they feed, and that water temperature kind of warms up to that 70-degree mark. They usually go on spawn, in my opinion, a little bit earlier than a flathead will, and that's going to be about the same time, about around that 1st of June. That they will kind of, you'll stop catching them, and they become tough to catch. So that's what I'm basing my information on, and that's what I'm sharing with you guys is my experience with when I can catch them, where I can catch them, and why I believe that I'm catching them there. And this time of year is whenever I believe that they're going on spawn. They're harder to catch, and then that's normally going to last between June and July. Now, toward the end of July, that water temperature is now we're back into that summer water temperature, and these blue cats become more predictable again. They will go to deeper water with that hot water, 40, 50, 60, 70 foot. These blue cats do not mind deep water at all. 70, 80 foot, absolutely catch big blue cats this time of year. Now, one thing I want to touch on real quick that I kind of missed or skipped around is in the springtime. Something to keep in mind is how shallow they will go. Whenever you talk about summer or springtime, you need to understand that these fish do not mind, and this is where it comes into play. This weekend, I was catching fish as shallow as less than 1 foot. Those fish were there chasing that bait, getting warm, and so do not hesitate to fish something that shallow. Okay, if you think they're there. So back in the summertime, those fish are, after spawn, they're resting up. They just like flatheads, they kind of go to an area. This is normally for blue cats. It's going to be deeper water. It's where the water they're going to stay cooler. It's a little bit deeper. They like that deep water, and we're going to be drifting, dragging type of stuff to catch those. Now, as the summertime fades away and the wintertime comes about, those fish are going to get more active. You can still catch them in deeper water. Normally, I will catch them in that deeper water all the way up until that water temperature gets really cold. These fish are going to be grouped up. They're going to feed as that water temperature declines, and into winter, whenever those fish finally stack back up, we're talking water temperatures that get back into that low 50s, 40-degree mark. Now those fish are going to be stacked back up. They're not going to be as aggressive. We're going to be more on an anchor, more in those current breaks and current seams, more so than out of that direct current like the summertime. In the summertime, they could be out in the middle of the river, right on the ledge. They don't mind the current at all. Locks and dams, in the summertime, even in the springtime, summer, and fall make really good areas. Do not worry about how much current you're in with those blue cats. Tackling Cats asks live thoughts on my thoughts on live baits for blue cats. Um, I have caught some really good blue cats on live bait. Uh, I don't think it's a necessity. Um, to me, if I can get away with cut bait, I will. But if the water temperature is warm enough for them to be active, and there's no current, I will turn to live bait just to get more, action and kind of, stir things up a little bit, and make them aware that that bait's there instead of them trying to smell it. I'm putting this live bait that's just struggling in the water, and I think that will bring them in. They may not hit that bait, first off, but they might hit one of the other cut baits first. But I do like live bait for blue cats, but I don't think it's a necessity. But I have caught good fish on that. Hopefully, Willie, that answers your question on that. So, if there's any more questions, make sure you're leaving them in the comments. Let's see here. Melinda, I'm sorry that I can't help you any on your game plan for chick fight. I do wish you guys the best of luck uh, down there. I hope all the women that go to the chick fight end up catching some really great fish. I think it's a great thing that they're putting that on. I wish all the best for you all women down there. Put it to them. Show us men what you guys can do, uh, and do the best you can do. Mike Greenwell, I plan on fishing one. I plan on fishing one. Mike Greenwell is asking if I plan on fishing any Cabela's this year. Uh, you know, I plan on fishing one, and that's the Huntington Cabela's. Hopefully, I'll be able to get qualified for the Classic through that Cabela's tournament this year. With everything else I got going on, I'm just not really able to, fish them like I have in the past. Let's see here. Uh, John Miller, he asked, does the river have a solid thermocline? In moving water, no. You won't really find that in moving water. But in years past, whenever the high river has in the summertime, the high river will actually turn into what some of us joke about being Lake Ohio, um, and you can actually find thermoclines in that river, and that's definitely not uncommon, um, and you will be able to see a definite line, on your sonar whenever you see it. Let's see here. I had another question. How about daytime versus nighttime patterns for flatheads and blues? Um, who was it that asked that? Shelby, as far as daytime versus nighttime patterns for flatheads and blues, when it comes to flatheads, nighttime, uh, in the summertime, those fish will come up on shallow and feed. But in my opinion, I love to fish daytime. I like to be able to see what I'm doing. I like to be able to read the river and what that river's doing. I want to make sure that I'm safe and things of this nature. Uh, so I love to fish daytime. But so nighttime pattern for flatheads, you want to catch them coming up in the flats where they're going to be able to feed at nighttime in the summertime. Okay. Um, Now blue cats, they're to me, in my opinion, they're going, they're same places, just as active during the day. Um, Now, depending if you're in a lake, that will change a little bit. Shallower at nighttime is always going to be a good place to be, where those fish can come up and really work that bait on those shallow flats or shallow creek mouths, stuff like that. Three Rivers Catfish Club. He asked, in waters that have uh, blues, both blues and I'm guessing flatheads in spring, which would you target first and or more during a tournament like say Galplis? Um, that's a trick question, Joe. So, uh, we're specifically talking about Galplis on this one. That river section, the High River, where the Canal River meets the High River, there there is a good concentration of blue cats. There's a great concentration of flatheads. I am a firm believer that this year and moving forward, that anybody that has not come to this tournament because they don't feel that they are good or a good competitor in flathead waters need to start coming to this area. There's a lot of good blue cats in this area, and the blue cats weights are actually going above flatheads. And for instance, last year we was able to weigh in a blue cat that was close to 50 pounds and a flathead that was in the high 30s, I'm wanting to think. So our blue cat actually kicked us up in weight more so than our flatheads did. And with the rules and regulations the way they are, blue cat fishermen now have just as good of an opportunity to go out there and win the Cabela's tournament in Galplis, Ohio, on the Ohio River and Canal River, as any flathead fisherman ever does. Okay, both of them are fired up this time. That time of year. We're talking May. The bait's moving, the fish are moving, and you can target both of them and win that tournament. I promise you. Even if you went out and you solely caught blue cats, you could win that tournament very easily. So hopefully that helps you out. On what you might want to do or might want to see. So that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Once again, I want to thank everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I enjoyed talking about it. It was a good topic. It was nice to be able to just carry that right on through. Charles, thanks for asking that question. Don't forget the meet and greet, South Point, Ohio, this Saturday. It's going to be 11 to 3. I will have some of my Slunger Cat stuff there. I'll have extreme bait tanks there for you guys to look at. John Newell will have some fresh bait. Supposedly he's going to go down and try. We all know how it is catching bait. So he's going to try to have some fresh skipjack for you guys. And make sure you go in the tackle box. Check out all they got Warrior Cat rods in there. I believe they're going to have some Shatter Cat rods in there. They've got some new catfish tackle in. They've got some Whisker Seeker stuff in there. Make sure you go in there. Tell them for anybody that has been looking for pin squall size 20 reels, they will have some there for you to look at and try out. So make sure you go in there. You let them know, what it is that you're looking for. Let them know. Mike Lewis. I don't know if Steve's coming this year or not. He hasn't said for sure whether he's going to have the opportunity. Hopefully Steve will be able to make it this year. It was good seeing him there last year. We got, and get to hang out with him. So hopefully he'll be able to come this year as well. But make sure you come to the tackle box. Make sure you let them know what you're looking for, what you'd like to see them carry. And hey, check us out. Talk to us. Don't forget, I'll be doing a live seminar showing on how to throw a cast net for everybody that is interested in it. As always, if you like what I'm wearing, go to Catfish Clothing with a K. Check them out. Support them. They support veterans. It's a veteran-owned company. Well, actually, it's not veteran. He's active. But make sure you support them. If you like the Slunger Cat Outdoors gear, hit me up. Let me know what you're wanting. We'll get it shipped out to you via messenger or message, whatever you'd like. Let me know. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Make sure you're leaving your questions in the comments for next week. We will catch you next Tuesday for Tackle Talk Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to thank everybody for watching. We'll catch you next week.